wastewater right now. Okay, we were gonna focus on getting the wastewater plant up to standard, or pretty close,
Yeah, no, that's the treatment we all had up front.
before we move on with the clean water side. And also to speak with Randy, we all don't agree with AE and I's scope of work essentially. So that's why I was asking with regards to if we put this out for bid, can we make changes? Because just because they say, this is what you need to do, doesn't necessarily mean that's what we're going to do, or what really truly needs to be done. And so that's where we're gonna try to trim some of the fat, save some money,
Yeah,
and, go after what really needs to be taken care of. So we do have some additional funds to go after the freshwater side and go after the ground storage tanks and, along those lines. But currently, right now, the focus has been primarily on the wastewater side.
so we have 1.2 million is what you're saying to do the waste side. Guys, I'm not one to-
That's their
I'm not
initial
challenging the
opinion.
council. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, well, yeah, right, that's their initial opinion, and of course, that was before tariffs were thrown out, tariffs were thrown out there for steel and aluminum, and so I'm expecting these costs to be higher, honestly. These numbers are probably gonna be about 70% accurate,
Yeah, no, that's
okay?
fine.
So saying that, 1.2 is gonna work out to be 1.6 by the time it's done, would be my guess.
What's the time frame?
We haven't even got to that stage at this point. Right now, we're just debating if we're just gonna, sell the bonds and then move forward, sit down and talk to AE and I and, put this out for bid, get contractors in here, and then we can, figure out a timeline there, because, we need to sit down with contractors, to determine how long it's gonna take to do these projects. AE and I has their own idea, but the contractor doing the work,
Yep.
that's where the real numbers and the real timeline's gonna come from. And also to what we asked them to, accomplish. Because I was told initially it's gonna be 10 months, I think that's too long. I think that's way too long, for this amount of work. I think it can be done within 6 months.
Oh, really?
I personally believe so, but that's just one man, one man's opinion.
I was
Yeah.
thinking it'd be more about a year,
So-
year and a half, but you got more experience with that than I do.
So, yeah,
Ken, are you following my logic or what I'm about?
yep.
Bill,
Yeah.
in answer to, sorry.
I mean, I just think we need to take a harder look at the whole
Right.
thing. We had a list of projects.
Right,
We had an amount of money.
correct,
You're passing half of that.
right,
That tells me the bottom half of the projects are not being addressed. You're now telling me that, instead of it being whatever, 2.4, I've got it down to 1.2 million now.
Right, right.
That's a bit of magic, and hopefully you really can do that, but it surprises me that we even think that's possible. So then that would leave us a million, if you will, a lot less than that.
Right.
But to put to some of the other projects. So
In
I
answer,
don't think you can get there from here, and what I'm asking for is a study of what's real, of the list of $4.4 million worth of projects, and when can we do which ones, and when will we have to ask for another amount of money to get into doing what's right? And that may result in a tax increase or a shift out of maintenance operation into debt service. And I'm not sure that wouldn't be appropriate anyway, but that's a different discussion. But we need to see where we're going with this, or we'll be, a year from now. A year from now, we're not even gonna get to the end of what we're talking about now.
Yeah, I think there's some unanswered questions here that we need to understand
Yes.
before we decide to move forward. I think this gentleman gave, I'm sorry, gave a good presentation.
and Bill, I was gonna say, in answer to that concept of whether, on a policy side, before it can be considered, whether to issue or to consider different amounts, then you would have to ask, Terrell to consider, what would be the cost of issuing 4.4 million? I think you would see it would double your debt service, or
Yes, it will.
offset it. So then, what is the cost of issuing, some ways in between? We would never recommend you you don't leave enough authorization to substantiate, or to allow to issue another bond issue. You need to leave enough authorization on the table to do a following up issue, and that's kind of where we came in on doing two portions in the middle, but it was also entirely based on the existing value. So for the purpose of comparison and simply reviewing it, you know, we could look at those numbers. But it's a policy decision for the board about, you know, how to manage your finances. And,
Which is another variable there too, and that's dredging, I'm sorry. I'll throw anything at
Can't
you.
use this money
But
for
we're gonna have to
dredging.
come in and ask for a
No
bond
money for dredging.
Am I right?
it's not authorized in this, you do
Right.
not have the
No,
authority.
Exactly,
I
exactly,
agree
that's
with you, I agree.
a totally
But
different.
Somewhere, in a year or two, couple of years down the line, we're gonna have to come forward and say, we had that presentation, now here's another presentation, hey, yeah, we want dredging, and we all agree that we do. So in the next couple of years, we're gonna have to come forward with a bond, which is gonna also raise taxes.
You'd have to have another election.
Please,
You'd have to have another election.
oh yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
You're then saying that dredging was very specifically excluded.
That is correct,
From the
Correct.
bond that passed.
per the request of this district.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
and
I'm not,
that's, I understand, not finding any fault with you either. But the second part of that is, under the DCEQ and the regulation of mud boards, somewhere in there it says the mud board, with DECQ's approval, can do virtually anything that's.
We have the
within their
authority to, we could
overall
use
purview.
operating funds, but you do not have, your authority to issue bonds is derived from the voters. And your voters have authorized a provision that specifically does not authorize dredging. So you may not sell bonds to fund dredging. The district has the authority to do dredging projects, and they can pay for them from their operating funds or go seek voter authorization to conduct a dredging
and that's
project.
the path forward. I did not bring this up to take and say that use this money for that. I'm just saying that, hey, I need
Yeah, it's
a
gonna-
washer and dryer.
it's gonna take more
I know I
debt
gotta buy
service,
a
yeah.
refrigerator later, so now I've got more monthly payments, so.
That's right. This future
It's not
planning,
just one
yeah.
piece at a time.
It's future planning. And, you know, this is a picture, a one-time picture in the long-term finances of the district at this value. And I think that is a critical component because, long-term, there is a growth. Generally speaking, that's the expectation. Conservatively, we do not ask, we do not, you know, we're of the same mindset on this, to not plan to use future growth for debt now. So when we sell things, we sell it based very conservatively. That's how we run these, that's how we recommend these be run. These municipalities be run. Obviously, other governments do not do that. But then when you do achieve some growth, you change your finances, you know, you do supplement your operating accounts with different revenues, which opens up some M&O, but keeps your reserves, that gives you more debt service. You open up the possibility to do another small bond issue, you know. It's a long-term issue. And this is a snapshot in the long-term planning of the district. And so that was what,
I just feel right
Yeah.
now that we're at a point where we're asking for $2.4 million. And we don't know what the schedule is or the work out there is, where it'd be smart for us to ask for $3 million. And that would really cover us and get the plant done, because we just don't know that variable. I don't, and the board's getting up to speed. You guys are trying to figure out all this stuff, I know that.
that will be in the bond application report prepared by the district engineer, which will be presented and discussed and approved here. And that will have a specific scope of work that will be submitted to the state. So at that time, you can
But that's not
discuss
gonna
the
address
projects.
The potable water, it's only gonna address the.
Well, right, but it's a starting place.
Would it be wise for us to get also an engineering report and a cost for the potable water side, have that all in hand before we ask for the bonds to be sold? So we have a rough cost of both the wastewater and the potable water side of things.
They did some estimates on that when they talked about replacing the one ground storage tank.
Yeah,
That was like $700,000. That was rolled into this.
yeah, 2 million I'm looking at,
Right.
right?
And that was the opinion of some of the people on the board that was overestimated. And that
Yes. yes.
we were gonna look at
I
that,
am
so,
definitely not in
so
agreement
that's
with
why
that.
we all backed off and said, that's
It's also an
not something-
estimate for preliminary voter authorization.
Right.
Which throws in a lot of contingencies and inflation because you don't know when those bonds will actually be sold. At the time of preparing the bond application, they do a stricter estimate, more itemized, that the state commission has to approve. And it will be, hopefully, you want it to be less. If it's more than the voters authorized, you can't pay for it.
No, you
Right.
can't, no.
So they usually intentionally design it, they intentionally plan for it that way. You would rather have too much authorization that you don't need to use.
I'm sorry, I was mistaken, by the way. I didn't look at this close enough. Combining wastewater and potable water, there's 1.974, so figure $2 million.
Okay.
They're estimating for both, and there's some disagreement with regards to replacing one of the ground storage tanks. So we might need. Be
Yeah,
able
there
to
was
bring
that
number
discussion
down.
about
Yes.
whether to rehab both,
Yep.
replace one and rehab the
Correct,
other.
correct.
So that's a
So,
factor in
so
all that.
essentially here, we're looking at, if we did both wastewater and potable water, they're saying $2 million, and we're gonna sell 2.4, we're gonna net 2.1, somewhere in that area. So, does that help out at all?
I think my thoughts on it as far as if the 2 million is going to be enough to cover that, instead of selling the 4 million like it's being suggested, we can first start out with the 2.4,
Right.
which we know isn't gonna raise our tax base. And then, once those projects are done, we can sit there and talk to the ratepayers and have a town hall and say, okay, we have more of these projects, we have this bond authorization available. Do we want, as a community, to go ahead and do this? It's gonna require a bit of a tax increase. But before we go and do something that's going to have a tax increase, get community input on it.
Oh, sure, of course, yes.
So for
Most
right
definitely.
now, the 2.4,
I think 2.4 is gonna cover both
That's why-
wastewater
that's
and
why it's
potable
being
water.
planned that way.
yeah. So
Carol?
I mean, that's what their current estimate, I'm hoping to reduce that.
Projects, the cost that was put out by the old board for the authorization for the election for the 4.4. And it combines both the wastewater and the freshwater projects. And there are some huge contingencies in here. And as far as timelines on the non-potable, started in January of 2017, was to be finished in August of 2017, didn't wrap up until December of 2017, and right into January.
Right, wasn't commissioned till
18.
January,
So
if I remember
your
right.
times and it's gonna be, you obviously to double some of your projected times if we're gonna use this sort of basis as our, but that money has to come out and reimbursement 12, because that's what the ratepayers gave
Right.
to pay for that debt that was in the 2-year budget.
We're hoping not to have that same problem this time
Right.
with regards to the non-potable system. The timeline to get it done was
Well, that's.
not even close, but, I mean, the board's been speaking, we've been talking to Randy about it. We're gonna bring in different contractors, we're gonna be managing them very closely.
let me borrow for a second here.
This came out.
Can I, it's already 7:15. Is there any more questions for our guests from the
Oh,
bond?
that's
okay.
right.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
let them leave.
One more thing.
Sure.
Were you the guy here that,
Yes.
Did it look like me? Was he talking about bonds?
on the $17 million bond, the public meeting?
That doesn't sound familiar. It really
Okay.
doesn't. You don't think so?
There was a guy identified as our financial advisor.
No, it had to be me. That had to be me. It just doesn't sound familiar. Maybe we're gonna issue them over a lot of years.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything to do with, I run the numbers that y'all tell, that the board tells me to run. If he started off with 17, if it was 17, I don't think there's no mystery, to it. There's nothing, there's no hiding the ball, because it's just, as Michael said, it was an authorized amount that we would be issuing over a long period. I'm sure it was me. I just don't remember the 17 million, not that it was, that it would shock me.
Well, that was over a way longer period of time. But
Yeah.
I asked the board at that point, if they could, offer not an exemption, but a freeze on people over 65. And someone said that that was not available to the board.
Oh, it's available. It just, you're all over 65, you know, I mean,
Oh, there's some younger people here.
I'd like to see what the, I'd like to see what the value is, all right? If everybody gets a huge exemption, then all of that,
Not an exemption, a freeze.
a freeze, then all of that would really fall to the other ones, and their increase would be very.
Well, we have a substantial number of corporate and, bank and out-of-town owners that you don't see. Yeah, a lot of us show up here, right?
Most municipal utility districts don't provide a lot of exemptions because it just inflates the tax rate, you know, because so many people would qualify.
But we can
Yes.
offer that freeze.
I don't know about the freeze, Mike, what, freeze, or
It's,
or an exemption is.
You're talking about, I think you're confusing a deferment. There's a deferment of taxes in some circumstances, and then there is a tax exemption where you can set, by,
Not either of those.
I don't, if you're talking about a freeze
Freezing the
like
tax rate
like the
over
state of
65?
California, like the California, you are, or like a school board, and their tax, you are frozen at the amount that you're paying in your 65th year, and then if your value goes up, you're still frozen at that level. Okay, that's a school district, that is a school district mechanism, and I haven't really seen that in the MUD district.
I've never seen it either. There's a couple different exemptions or deferments. You can
Every other
have.
taxing authority that I pay property taxes to has it.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure that's,
Commissioner Broadbridge, but that's like a net.
I'm not sure that's.
Okay. Yeah.
So we don't know.
Well, I've never seen it.
I've never seen it
and,
either.
And I would say, it's
We do
mainly a
have tax
school
deferments
district.
and tax exemptions.
It's a school district.
Well, it's municipal and it's county.
I don't know about the cities. I don't know about the cities. I
Well, I
don't.
do, I get a tax statement.
But you just said Lamar didn't have, didn't you say you're not getting it?
As an
We don't live in Lamar.
You said, you
That
mentioned
is
you're
not a
in
thing that
Minnesota.
exists,
Or you're getting it at your Minnesota.
to my knowledge.
In Bio Vista. I said the
I can't hear him.
I do not believe that is correct. I do not believe that exists, that freeze structure. That is not an option I've ever seen, and we structure exemptions and we structure deferments.
No, those are the exemptions.
Those are exemptions.
No, it's free.
Okay, we're gonna ask,
But I don't,
Terrell
I
to
can't
leave.
say definitively, I don't know if I don't know.
Quick question.
When we had this summary.
Okay, that's not for Terrell. Any more questions for Terrell? We can address that. Yep, for Terrell?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. See, Robert, since I don't know much about bonds, I'm gonna ask a silly question, and there's no dumb questions. But, so, 4 million and something was authorized. What if it's split in two, on the 2.4 is good for the first 2 years, and then activate the rest of it after that?
Great.
Part one and part two.
Wonderful financing plan.
Okay,
I love that.
Yep.
I love that plan. That's exactly what we proposed tonight.
okay.
Yep.
We're gonna sell 2.4 million, we're gonna reserve the 2 million, and we're gonna sell those whenever we can.
Okay.
That's right.
Thank-
It-
Thanks,
I
Terrell.
Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate it.
Sure, thank you very much, good to see you all.
Thank you, Terrell.
Just to confirm what you're saying, John, even in this projection, summary of cost estimates for the wastewater, that 1.2
And there's also been some improvements, taking place that Randy's been doing that is on this projection
Right.
that we can actually take off because they've already been completed.
Absolutely.
So,
that
I think we'll be real
that's
close
going to be
if we sell
longer
the 2.4.
For getting everything.
I think we'll be real close, because we're gonna manage this very closely. And, we're all gonna be very part of, the bid, what contract we bring in and who we accept, and, Randy's gonna be a very big part of that. And, we are not gonna have a repeat of last time.
Thank you.
And the
We will not have that.
the numbers we said were reconfirmed to us in a May 29th memo from Bill Reckley to the board and to us saying 1.168 for the wastewater. So that was the date that he reconfirmed that to us.
What's that?
All right, one more question?
Yes, I'm Richard White, and I guess I'm wondering why our engineers are not here to talk. They didn't get fired, did they?
Not yet.
Because I really think they know how to do it the right way. You need extra money when you don't know when it's gonna happen. You don't know if conditions are gonna change. So you need contingencies in there.
Right. Yeah, they're in there.
You haven't
Yep.
got final engineering done, you haven't got bids done, you don't have prices, you don't know if Trump's gonna change things as far as all these imported pumps and such. Anyway, I'd like to see back where we were, how much money was approved, that, the bond was based on project, right? And there was amount of money there for it, but I think it was well planned, and I hope they don't use it all. But I wanted, that's what I approved, and they're the ones that did vote for it approved. So if y'all can cut it, that's great, but I'd like to see what y'all are fixing to agree to do before you do it.
Well, currently, right now, we're just talking about selling
Back to the
$2.4 million
citizens, Back to the
bonds.
citizens.
Right.
I like to see what I think y'all are, so I can comment if I agree with what you're fixing to approve or not.
Correct.
And I sure didn't hear it tonight. I didn't. I heard a little bit of this project, a little bit of that. And y'all didn't even agree on what it was at first. I mean, I was hearing one thing,
Mistake.
different thing over here.
I can
So,
tell you,
I know it's been a
process-wise,
short period of time for y'all.
when a specific project is ready to be bid, that will be presented and approved.
Right.
Individual project here, the funds may come from the bonds.
Right.
But the project itself will be individually discussed, the proposal will be discussed, there will be a bid tab, it will be publicly advertised if it's over a certain amount. You'll review the resulting bids from individual third-party contractors, the scope of work, alternative bids, if you had different packages,
Right.
that it might, you might choose the slim package if the prices come in high. And then that award will be approved right here in this room by this board. And that will be discussed. Right now, it's about pre-planning to have the
Right.
finances to pay for that. These numbers are estimates.
Right.
And then when they come in, you'll see what you have left, see what that is. But every individual project that is expected will be, the actual project will be advertised and awarded, and then pay estimates will come in.
No, I agree.
On a
I
monthly,
agree
and
with
that
you.
will all be presented as well.
No, I know that, I
So-
agree that that's a process, and that's what's gonna happen. But it looked to me like y'all were saying, go get us $2.1 million or $2.4 million right now.
Right.
What I was hearing.
So if you do
And-
not
and
sell
I
the
don't know
bonds
what
now,
that's for.
it's for a list of
It's
projects.
part of
that-
what we agreed to spend $4.4 million on.
Right.
It's to maintain the tax rates, that's what it's for.
There is a list of projects. It's a list of projects that was on the voter authorized election. With the
Did you want me
list
to
that
read them
is,
all?
will be the 2.4 will be in the bond application report. That will be presented here, and you will see the list exactly in the estimate for each project. That will be sent to the state before you can sell the bonds. If you do not sell the bonds, if you don't sell the bonds, you wait until you've already done all the projects, then you sell the bonds to reimburse yourself. Well, you're coming out of your operating fund. until those projects are done. And for the sake of maintaining reserves, and it has been, that's one reason to be done in conjunction. So you have estimates, and that's where you're selling the bonds on. It's gonna be submitted to the state and reviewed by the TCEQ, which is the Commission on Environment and Quality. It's your water commission. And they will review your engineering plans, and it will be reviewed by engineers at the state and decide whether these are good projects and these are good numbers. And they will come back with an order that says, yes, this project is right at this number. You may sell bonds to finance that, and then you will then spend those monies subject to that TCEQ order. And I apologize if I'm not answering your exact
Well,
question.
maybe, it looked to me like y'all were saying, okay, y'all go get this, go start the ball rolling on getting this money. That's what I thought I was hearing.
Oh,
This is our financial guy.
I think I got it.
You hear me?
The 2.4 is what he says we can sell. When that engineering report comes in, it may only be 2.2, 2.3. It may be that he needs 2.6, and then we'll make a decision on what to actually sell.
Okay, so he's not really moving forward, he's waiting on the
Correct.
engineering report.
Correct.
Which then's gonna
Right.
be approved
Yes, sir.
before he really goes forward.
This is, so the engineer knows what project, it's kind of like backfilling into what you know. The capacity of financing you have is 2.4 at this tax rate. So the engineer will backfill in the projects that he can do for that, but if parts of that are absolutely necessary or he can't get done, and it's done on timeline and the amounts, then we'll come back and we'll have to discuss, the financials on it. Ideally, it's not exactly 2.4, but that does not guide what gets sold. That is a discussion for first step, so you know the capacity you have to sell bonds at current values and current tax rates with no other change.
He's essentially telling us that
Here's
you can
your
get that much money, probably,
Here's your bank letter for pre-approval on a
Without
mortgage
taxes.
before you've seen the house, before you've, submitted the application. This is going in and talking to your banker, and he says, I'll write you a letter that says you're pre-approved for 2.4 million. Now go find a house, or go work on it, and then your actual loan, when you get it, is it not exactly 2.4? I mean, is that,
Well, the
That's a good analogy,
2.4
yeah.
very
Yeah.
specifically is only to maintain the tax rate.
correct?
He doesn't care which projects we do.
Correct.
He just said his word of honor, he's not gonna raise the tax rate, so that's where he
That's-
came up with the 2.4.
Correct.
We gotta figure out how to use it, how to stretch it to 4.4.
That's correct.
Because he also said,
Or not in that sense, but that is
so
how
the
to use
values
it.
start trickling up, we can't afford under the existing tax rate to spend any more money for 25 years.
Right. And his
That's what he
instruction was, do not, only provide an analysis under the existing tax rate. And we don't recommend you use future growth because it's just not advisable.
And when you guys were just talking about tax rate, you meant the
6 cents.
debt service
Right.
tax rate.
Only
not
the debt service.
Right, that-
Total tax rate.
Correct. You can keep the total the same, and that's where you talk about that discussion of, the engineer comes back, you really need 2.6.
Right.
Well, then you borrow a couple pennies from your M&O, and it wouldn't be totally devastating. Terrell likes to see 100% reserves down here, as I discussed
Right.
last week with y'all. I do too. There might be some wiggle room in the short term, but you don't want to if you don't have to.
Right,
Okay.
right, yeah. You don't want
What is our total tax rate now? Is it 23 something?
23.
29.
I think it's 17.6. Is that correct?
I know those two things.
That's
are
around
true.
23,
I thought it
right.
was something else.
No, our rate is just, maintenance and operations, 17,
That's
and debt
also
service is
23.
6.
So, since this is 6, if we really wanna go for 4.4, it'll just be another 6 on top of the 23. It's not like 100% increase in the
Correct.
tax rate, it's 6 cents on top of the 23.
Correct.
So it's a 25% increase.
Yeah, 20.
If we did that, so.
Yeah.
It's still a long way from the 17 thing we're talking.
22,
One more question,
This
guys,
is
move on.
almost trivial, but I'll be through after this, I think. That 17 million or whatever they were trying to get at one time, it was more current needed projects and long-term projects which were looked at by the engineering group and were, and they were planning on asking for a little money at a time election, it would go ahead and do it all at one time, which it would have, but that's the small peanuts of the money of the total.
If I could answer your question with regards to the plans and the project's work scope here, we have the opinion of probable cost from AE&I, for the 2.4 million. Well, actually, it might yield two.
A little louder, please.
All right. They have written down here, headworks replacement and influent channel modifications, non-potable water system additions, that is completed already without using any bond money. So we can take that out of the total. Wastewater treatment plant skate upgrade. Randy's been working on that right now. It's already being upgraded as we speak. Okay, so we can take that out of there also. So that's approximately $300,000 savings right there because it's already being done. The aeration basin number 1 and 2 rehabilitation, influent, effluent channel modifications, digester basin number 1, number 2 rehabilitation, wastewater treatment plant general improvements. On the potable water side, replace the ground storage tank. There's some disagreement there, so I'm hoping that figure will go down by a lot. And then rehabilitating the other groundwater storage tank. And then we have booster pump rehabilitation, remove and replace booster pumps. And then groundwater, flow piping and stuff for the well. So there is a plan in place, the project's in place, the scope of work is in place. We're just trying to get some money, get the process going, the ball rolling, because it's a 6-month time delay until we get the funds. And like I discussed, Randy can also tell you too, some of these projects that are taking place already, as we speak. And so, that 1.9 million is their current estimate. Just a rough estimate, of course. It's not, extremely accurate. And, but it does give us a good idea where we're going with all this. We can take roughly another 300,000 out of that, so we'll take it down to 1.6 million. So, and
That's great.
So,
But I'll,
if that helps you out a little bit.
right now.
So we're not just asking for money, not knowing what we're gonna do with it. We have a plan.
Here in the future, but
So.
I'd like to see it all at one time.
Right.
And,
You
But the
make
one
it
time's gonna
less and
increase
it
your
works
tax
good,
rate.
I'm all for it.
and
And
one,
things change.
one iteration, these figures that John just made were made with Randy, just a second, beating the head over AEI saying, no, 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 this is what we want, and them coming back with what we need, because what you said earlier, we are not growing. We already have an infrastructure that's made, we already have a people that's made, so we don't have to build for 1999 or for 2099. We only got so many houses, and we're not gonna get any more. So we can tailor our structure for the existing people and the flow that we have. And that's what Randy's been doing with A&I for the last 3 months. We've watched him. So,
The question,
more question?
Mr. Baker, the engineering report coming in back, does that include potable water?
Oh,
Yes, it does, yes. Yes, it does.
Okay,
Harry,
so-
you have a question?
It has from the beginning.
Yeah.
Is it possible to, I think everybody wants to make the plant better, the wastewater treatment plant better, to improve the quality and reliability of the drinking water. The discussions and disagreements and whatever that have taken place have been around how best to do that and how to make sense out of a way that everybody can approve and support moving forward. We've got things like the bond, or the financial advisor says that there's a 6-cent tax rate. You see the projections based on a current 8-cent tax rate for debt service, going up to 9.5%, and that's represented as not being an increase. All of that's history. What we need to do moving forward is come up with a consistent set of numbers with what we're dealing with today. The new scope of work, typically the way people budget things, would be to identify the tasks that have to be done, estimate how much they are, figure how much of it will be done this year, how much next year. And that list is stable, and everybody can look at it, everybody can agree to it. When you get a job cross that off. When you sell bonds, you fund a piece of it. When you finish a project, you've either done it for your budget or some other number. All of that can be presented as a coherent system that agrees with each other. His numbers at least agree. His 2.4 million at 4% would be a annual payment of $153,600 a year, which happens to be exactly 6 cents tax rate based on the current tax base. So at least their numbers balance.
So then you agree.
But I think those are the only numbers that have ever
So,
balanced.
so what you're saying is you agree then, and,
His numbers are arithmetically
yes,
correct.
yes, they are, yes, they are, yes, they are.
He said it was just math.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
and that's all it is.
And we have a
It is
scope of work, so
arithmetically correct.
I think we can move forward with this plan. We make a plan, then we work our plan.
Okay,
So
so,
right now, we're trying to work our plan a little bit here.
and the plan will be published, and you talked about the approvals and the bid, the low bidder is approved. The
Subject,
scope
yeah.
of work is the definition, which is what you were talking about,
Right.
John. To get the proper definition of the scope of work, that is where the real control of the project is,
That will
Correct.
be presented to
Right.
the board
to the board.
for
Yeah.
approval to go out for bids, yes. And then the board, then it's up to the board to dig into what the, scope of work that the engineer is presenting.
It should be possible for the ratepayers in the district.
If the
to
board so
also
chooses, they can.
Well, sure, just
they
come to
can
the meetings.
disclose
I mean,
those
I will be
proposals.
talking about that, because next month,
So you're gonna
assuming
read
we
the
approve
scope.
this, we'll have A and I here, and then
You'll
we're
read
gonna,
the scope in the meeting.
what's that?
You'll read the scope in the meeting.
If you'd like it in advance, that can be discussed. You can
Yeah.
disclose these
Totally, yeah.
proposals in advance of the meeting, so you can come and ask
That's-
informed questions.
That's exactly what.
The engineer then we set the deadline, the board instructs the engineer that the deadline for your proposal is not the board meeting, but it is 1 week before the board meeting. So then you can, post it on the website. Here's the proposal for the clarifier rehab.
I talked to the engineer, AEI, about 3 weeks ago, and he said that when they're ready to present, they'll put it out here an hour ahead of time, all the documents, everybody can come and ask any question they want, just like we did at the Tech Stop meeting. Everybody just come up and ask him questions, totally. So he said, we'll agree to, and he'll bring their engineer staff to answer them all. So he said that's what he'll do.
So they've had 6 months to design it. We'll have an hour to look through it and ask them questions.
What's that?
They've had 6 months to design it, and we will have an hour to look through it and ask questions.
How much time would you like?
We hired
How much
an
time would you like?
an engineering company, and this is what they're good at. Why do you feel that you're better than them, or that you need to approve everything that they do? I can understand having input as a citizen and as a customer that you want it to be done, but this just drags out the whole process.
They are a professional engineering group
what they
with a PE
do for a
license,
living.
which is required in the state of Texas to do business for the MUDs. So whatever
There's a good chance that what they've decided may be just really good.
what's that?
There's a good chance that what they've decided, what they're recommending could be good.
I understand, and that's why we have Mr. Randy, who has got all the certificates required by TCEQ, who's been working with him for the last 4 years. He started this whole process 5 years ago. He's been working with him 4 years. I've I've seen his documents to get them to where they're at now. So this has not been a Johnny-come-lately meeting. Randy has
If you
been,
had seen none of those.
What's
how
that?
If you had seen none of what you have looked at, how would you determine it has all been done well?
if I had seen none, good question. If I had seen none of what's been
Let me put
handled.
it a different way. If you had seen as much as the people who are going to pay for the bond have been shown, how would you determine it is all done well?
Well, good question. How would I determine it? If I had to make a split decision, I'd only be based upon my expertise and my trust in my people.
Without seeing it?
That's right. So I trust my AEI because they got the professional qualifications, and I trust on Randy because he's got the qualifications for the plant. He's the guy that, if something gets screwed up, his hind end is in jail, not mine, Randy's.
I think in the
So
scope of,
that's where I look at it.
I think in the scope of public participation, I don't see why there'd be a problem if, and they're saying an hour, why would be an issue having them have it available online 48 hours before the meeting so people can look through it, like when we talk about the chlorine dioxide system. That's a big issue with people having different chemicals and disinfection in their water. So to encourage more community participation, I don't see why there'd be an issue with not having it a couple of days before the meeting so people can look through it and possibly do their own research to have educated questions.
That's not a problem. I just don't know how big the documents are gonna be online, to be honest. I mean, it's a lot of
They're
documents.
Small enough they can be looked at in an hour.
What's that?
They're gonna be small enough they can be looked at in an hour.
That's right. So I would talk to Bill, and I'll tell him what we'd like to have, and I'll have it, back to you. Bill said Bill said he will do what we need to do. That's his words to me. Whatever you need, we will do it.
I don't think anybody's gonna be disappointed if everything turns out wonderful. That is not a bad outcome.
It's not one.
That means we're not trying to throw rocks at things. I'm not trying to throw rocks at things. I just like to have some idea. There's gotta be some logical, thoughtful
Understand.
path through.
No problem. No problem with it. I'm just saying, no. We'll give you the documents, but we can't. Randy has told everyone on this board, he's got some critical problems right now that gotta be addressed, right now.
Now,
And he said, we've waited on that for 5 years,
I would
because we've been
remind-
doing all this
I would
crap.
remind,
So we've gotta do something.
the residents of the board and everybody, you know, this is a political subdivision in the state of Texas. You're 5 elected officials. You are same as the city council or senators. You are elected and you will vote on the actions pursued by the board, and you're representatives of the public. So you take input as you see appropriate, and then you guys make the decision. The residents are not authorized to vote on individual actions of the board. They vote for you. So you are accountable to your residents, and if you don't like the actions of your board, you vote them out. But the day-to-day operations of this district are conducted by the 5 persons up here. And so the involvement of the public is desirable, but at a certain point, it is not designed for a vote of 700 people on a clarifier project.
No, it's not feasible. I mean, we need to move
If I
forward.
might add, the slight difference between this board and, for example, city council. This board deals with more technical stuff than the city council does.
Well, city council luckily has enough money to hire city engineers in district. Oh, I'm sorry, you mean by, I'm sorry.
You have a council member sitting right
Sorry. Saying Galveston.
Okay.
Careful, you're about to.
I'm sorry. I was
Okay,
thinking
we
of
had
Galveston.
Most everybody
think we need to
in
move
this
forward.
audience
Yeah.
is an engineer of some sort. Therefore, we each think we know just about everything there is. to
That's
know.
right.
Oh, sure, we're all
And
smart.
we're not shy
Every one of
about
us.
sharing that with anybody. And we're also not shy about arguing minutiae points. Unfortunately, these guys have got to make the decision.
Right.
And hopefully they're going to do it based on mostly the technical expertise from Randy and from the engineers, unfortunately from the financial guys and yourself, all of whom have been criticized roundly in the past year. And
Well, you
it's
try
unfortunate,
to-
but your guys' job is more technical than the mayor of Houston,
Yeah.
the mayor of
Well, I
Bautista,
can-
any
yep.
of those deals, because you're getting right down to the nuts and bolts of how you really make this stuff work.
The good
Well-
news,
Oh, I'm sorry.
the good news is we have a engineering staff, AEI, that is highly qualified. The bad news is, it's expensive. So there you go.
That's where I'm going. Bob's Bob said it, y'all are saying it, you said it. We do not need to engineer this thing.
That's what we're paying them to do.
Very
Yeah.
good quality people.
Right.
It's a good company. They do a lot of work for a lot of municipalities as far as designing things. They've done it. We need to let them do it. As long as they do what we think
We just need
they're
to manage
supposed
them.
to do.
You
And
know,
we all-
keep them on track of our best interest and not their best interest.
And we also have a legal attorney who works strictly with MUDs. And we also have a accountant, Lydia, who works strictly with MUDs, so we do have a team.
Do the engineering and we need to go for it.
What I
right,
recommend
let's
we move
move on to
forward and make a motion. Make a motion to approve.
Well, no, just a second. We were just to discuss and approve applying. So, does anyone on the board wish to make a motion or
Discuss and
to approve applying for the $2
I would
million
propose
or
that the
not?
motion would be to instruct your engineer to move forward with a bond application report in or around the amount of $2.4 million.
Right, right. So we just
That's what's
instruct the
on the
engineers
table.
to.
Yes, it is, yes, for 2.4.
Do we have a motion? Have a motion by John, have a second? Second for Bob. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the board has authorized the engineer to move forward with developing a bond proposal for TEQ for $2.4 million,
For the sale of $2.4 million.
for sale of $2.4 million. All right. Update on the next agenda item was the update on the Parsons survey, just by me, just brief. I contacted Parsons because last time they said they didn't do the laterals and they didn't do some of the edges and stuff. That's being redone and been sent to us, and they said the price will not be, their estimate will not be increased. So I'll have that for you very,
Their estimate will
as soon as
not,
it comes. What's
or
that?
will be increased?
Will not
Will not.
increase. He said they apologize, and he sent me some information, but he's following that up with a formal, and I'll have that we have no money for it, so I just have it for you.
So they're looking at the, when you're saying there's doing some additional information.
Yep,
in
yep.
Vega Bay, they're
Yep.
looking at the.
That's what I asked him to do.
Back there, dredging back through that, and
Yep.
also the pipes that are in Five Vista.
That's what I asked him to do. I said, so you didn't cover that, and to my knowledge, the contract covered that, so please complete your contract. And he said yes.
Are they gonna come in?
And he agreed.
Presentation?
Okay, now we're going to have the operator's report, which will be by Randy and by John, okay?
Moving on to the operator's report. Randy, did you want to touch on it a little bit?
Basically, everything's doing okay, plant and everything.
We had a water main break earlier in the week.
69 Tarpon, we had a water main break, we repaired it.
All right. Just so you all know, I stopped by today, met with them, and I went and walked through the plant. We discussed, what was going on, different improvements, things that need to be taken care of, so I'm kind of up to speed, but, if y'all wanna know, we purchased, let's see, what did we purchase for the month? 5.3 million gallons of water. And the, non-potable system, well, as expected, it's functioning, but not functioning as designed, because it can't, because they put the cart in front of the horse. That's kind of where I had some problems.
I'm sorry, say it again, the air conditioner kicked on at exactly the wrong time.
The non-potable water system that, the contractors did last year, the improvement they did to save the potable water, functions, but it can't function as designed because they should have done other improvements first. So this can't function properly. It is saving us water, but it can't do it.
Is that the inflow?
Yeah, the inflow, but it can't do it until we repair the fine screen. On the inflow side of the wastewater facility, I'm trying to think of the right words, but I think Randy might be able to help me along on that one a little bit.
Headworks, yes, basically, until the
Well, no,
headworks is
well,
designed and
Well, the
fixed.
headworks he's been working on, he changed up some of that already.
And, that's what we're currently waiting for. Once we get it, then we'll be helping. But with the project that we have going on, that we need to get the clarifiers and valves and things which are shown in there, and that's what we're waiting on now to start improving the aeration basins and everything so that it will operate
was known, the cost of the fine screen repair was prohibitive at the time.
Right.
And so as a project that could be done first, although not to full
Right.
functionality,
Correct.
it was chosen to proceed with the non-pot system, knowing that the fine screen repair was planned. And I am reciting, I'm not an engineer, but I'm reciting what I have heard multiple times
Right.
from AEI in these meetings and in
Right.
our discussions.
Right.
So that's,
So it wasn't a surprise.
no.
No.
It was just,
No.
you couldn't, one could be done short term and one long term.
There were several reasons why that non-pot was put in when it was, before the headworks were fixed. We knew there would be blockages with the strainers on the non-potable system. The one main reason was we could reduce the amount of water flowing through the wastewater plant, because our permit that we're in the process of renewing right now is close to the 75–80%. And that's when the TCEQ is gonna come back and say, hey, what's your plan for upgrading your wastewater treatment plant? But by putting in the non-potable water system, we reduce that number to a point where we're not gonna be nailed by the TCEQ to add another aeration chamber.
You're required to go into design phase for an upgrade at
It
75%,
would have been
which
an
costs
easy
money, and you're ordered
$1
to.
million or more.
What it is, it's saving us over 2 million gallons a month.
Save a lot of water.
A lot of water, but we're just having a little time with the solids and things like that, which can be cleaned out on the filter. And once we do have the design and everything put in and eliminate the headworks, get it proper, then it'll improve.
So the savings will increase on the water, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, once it's, working,
It brought us down to
Per design.
60% right now
Right.
on the wastewater, where we were getting
Right.
up to 70, like Bob was saying. Plus that in return, that cut your cost on Gulf Coast down, where we aren't spending as much money on it. So it all comes around pretty well.
Well, so it's a success, but there's more potential in the future.
Correct. Yes.
Everybody agree with what I just said?
yep, makes sense.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anything else we need?
That's about
Randy?
it, I believe. Unless the audience has anything.
We're talking about the water meters, we're changing out a lot of water meters, for better reads, more accurate reads.
Correct, we're changing them all out. We, had 8 meters that didn't read last month due over an old Mega Bay, and we corrected all them, plus then we also took out about 5 others that were replaced. We're using new digital light meters.
Sounds good.
That's about it.
I see the accountability's down to 92%.
Yeah.
Last month we were like 96 or 94.
We've been flushing off the hydrants and things.
Okay.
So that,
Well, you know, that's why.
yes,
Okay.
Bob, you're the only board member I've ever heard complain about 92% accountability.
I asked him about it today, but,
When you can reach and sustain 94, 96%,
I said, why are we at 100%?
we're accounting,
That's
we're
what I wanna
accounting for
know.
all of our water.
You'll,
Yeah.
Mr.
I used to
you'll
bring it
never
down
be,
there.
you'll
Yeah.
never be. But,
Mr.
500,000
Mishachek
gallons.
in Lamarck, he'd be happy to get 70%.
correct.
how about gallons?
They're not even close.
Usually 80% is the happiness in any district.
Yeah, over 90 is excellent.
It's bragging rights.
Go get a star.
All right, thank you, John. Good report. We'll have an engineer report. I asked the engineer not to come tonight. It cost money for him to come, and the report was not needed. So I'll just read he gave us a report on the wastewater rehabilitation in the odor control basin. Review plans and specifications were delivered, which is this report here was delivered on May 29th. To the board, authorizing the projects to bid, which is the projects we're bidding on, we're discussing tonight. Copies were given to us, which is these copies, and the letter from TCEQ was provided, which is saying this is ready to be presented to them for approval. Second thing, the drinking water taste and odor control investigation. The board asked for more information from other municipalities for use on the chlorine dioxide for water treatment. This information was requested from other municipalities but did not respond, and the manufacturer of the chloride dioxide treatment unit did not provide an attached case study and information. As a president board member, I will contact Moody and get that information. We had trouble with Moody when they installed it. We had trouble with Moody when they followed up on it. So it was not a good program. So we'll find out what else is going on. The third item was the water and wastewater discharge permit renewal. We have to have a renewal for the permit from TCEQ because it goes into the bio, and that's underway, and the permit coordinator is Julian Centeno. That's the engineer's report, because the rest of the stuff was discussed with the bonds. So,
I have a couple of questions. You were talking about the chlorine dioxide. If I remember correctly, I know I didn't, the board didn't agree to it or not, but I do remember making a statement to them last month that speaking to the community myself, that we should not be moving forward, even looking into this. And I do not know why they chose to move forward with it, and probably sent us a bill, because I'm looking at a $30,000 bill there. And about the chlorine dioxide. Are you asking them to, to continue researching this information, or are you asking them to stop?
no.
Oh,
Good question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, as I just speak, I'm gonna ask Randy to tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah,
Randy, could you?
The chlorine dioxide is just for the well.
no, we don't use that. We use the chlorine and the ammonia that we put in for the well only.
Right, the well on you.
Yeah, we don't use that starch stuff. It's very dangerous and all that. I've told them that we don't really need that type of thing. If we could just stop, looking into it. It's very dangerous stuff.
Good.
Hazardous to your employees. You can-
advice, yes, but, yes.
it's-
We rely on you for, certain information,
Yeah.
from
Like
what we
I said,
understand too. And
It
Eric
ain't broke
understands it.
what we have, so we're better off without that.
Yeah, so, I'm assuming, again, I don't know, being new here and all, I'm assuming AE and I talks to you only.
No,
So,
I've talked to them, but they talked to all of us.
But, but as far as direction,
If you wanna,
As far as
give them a
direction,
direction, I
yes,
recommend
yes, you need
you
a direct-
designate a point of contact
Yes,
on the board.
right,
They
correct.
will still talk to everybody.
Well,
Or
well,
you
right,
have Randy,
right.
instruct Randy to call them and give them that direction immediately so they don't waste any more time on it, but.
correct, because I'm sure we were built for that, so.
And if they attend the meeting, you obviously tell them,
Right.
right,
Well,
on the
I
times
kinda
they do
did last
attend.
month, but,
See, and, you can call them, ask them.
so, and, but again, it showed up in this month's agenda, and I'm like, where'd this come from?
Okay.
They
So-
did, on the agenda here from, the
Yeah, I read
chlorine
that.
dioxide, they did put a case study in here
Yeah, I did read it.
Right.
for, San Antonio,
Yeah,
I mean, San Diego, excuse me.
but we didn't ask for that I'm aware of, so, I mean,
That's what we were asking for, was case studies and examples.
I guess there's some confusion there, so, but, like I said, we didn't agree to it, I just know what I said. I just know what I said last month, and I didn't agree with it, the residents didn't agree with it, Randy didn't agree with it. So, and that was last month, I told Tom directly.
I know
You're not to
they
follow
will
through.
review the minutes
So.
of this meeting, so if, you would like to make some consensus on this for the benefit of your engineer on your instruction. Sounds like you,
Okay, gotcha.
you give it,
Let me know, right.